So questions. Now's a great time for questions. Yes. So the question is about positions in correctional facilities for up-and-coming librarians. So it's a library position that you're...
Well, I can speak to that just real briefly. We also provide library service through the Alameda County Library to the inmates in the Alameda County jail system. It is a library position, specifically listed through the Alameda County, specifically listed through the Alameda County Library. With our program, it's the same way. They're not specific. Well, they are specific to the library. They are not specific to the jails, though. And when a specific position comes up that's with our program, then it would be listed as such with the Alameda County Library. So, and then the Sheriff's Department does have other programs, but not library programs per se. So we're a county program, county library program.
Yeah, well, at the prison level, it's a little bit. At the prison level, it's a little bit different. There's within the California Constitution, there's certain parameters that prisons have to have for their libraries. So they actually, it's much more controlled. Pretty much all of those positions are through the Department of Corrections of the state of California. And there's a website, I don't know what the website is, but that lists all the openings for those positions. And every prison has a head librarian, I think two assistant librarians underneath them.
cdcr.gov. Janine, did you want to add anything?
No.
Okay. At our jail, we are the library. So, and we're not librarians. We're literacy providers. Questions? Other questions? Yes.
Do you have any... Hi. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations for resources for trainings for volunteers or your staff that goes beyond basic safety or regulations, but sensitivity training or breaking down preconceived notions about working with inmates? Do you have any recommendations for what to include in training?
So we're talking about staff training for volunteers or staff in terms of really reprofiling, I think, the inmate, getting some sensitivity about the humanness of an inmate, more than just the security issues. That's the question.
Our training for adult literacy volunteers we do it online. We've come up with a PowerPoint presentation that happens through an online presentation that our volunteers access. But we have found, and our tutor learner coordinators do an orientation, a one-on-one orientation with volunteers before they're even given the information to access that online training. We have found that sensitivity training best happens in person. And you know, I won't say there's any one thing. We talk a lot about diversity, but the thing that I think we emphasize the most in our training is that adult learners in a correctional setting are just like any other adult learner. They have exhibited an incredible amount of courage just by coming forward to say they need to learn how to read and want the same things that we all want. The California State Library requires that we use a system of goals called roles and goals, and you're familiar with roles and goals. Yeah, well, we do the same thing in the correctional setting, because these people who are going to get out in the jail setting, these people who are going to get out and going back into the community want the same things that adult learners in other settings want. We have a training in our online training that specifically speaks to what you can and cannot do in a jail setting. And since it is a world unto itself, a correctional setting is a world unto itself, it is a lot of times a reprogramming. So our best thing that we tell volunteers, and you each may have your own answer to this, is if you don't know, ask. Don't make assumptions. I mean, it's really things as simple as we had a volunteer who was ultimately not allowed to tutor, who accepted an offer of an apple from her student while they were in a tutoring session. And a sheriff's technician saw this and reported to his superior, and that person's security clearance was snatched. So it really is, for the volunteer, just a reprogramming of the fact that you're in a correctional setting. You know, we tell our volunteers to tell the students with whom they work, I'm sorry, I don't do favors. And that seems kind of cold, but it really does make for a more effective tutoring relationship if both the volunteer and the tutor or the student know what they're there for and what they're not there for. So,
I'd just like to add that in terms of humanizing an inmate, which I think really was what your question kind of revolved around, support from either a staff person, the coordinator, a mentor who's been around in the facility, ongoing support. So our training is pretty much the regular tutor training. Somebody has to already have either experience teaching or in corrections before I'll even think about putting them in the jail or the prison. But it's the community that we send in there, our community of volunteers and our staff people who really talk to each other and support each other. I get lots of phone calls when somebody's new, and I call them. And are we kind of getting close to what you were asking? Okay.
I'll just quickly give a couple. We use some information that Quakers have published. A lot of Quaker organizations have worked in prisons and jails and have materials. And then there's also a book. I don't know the author off the top of my head, but the title of the book is Games That Criminals Play. And it's kind of a very pessimistic view of a criminal's behavior, but it's kind of nice for we have all of our staff read that. Not every volunteer, but we do have our staff read that because it kind of gives you the mindset of that environment.